Now we'll move on to item number 6, which is conduct. City Clerk.
Item 6A, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase units for the downtown trash receptacles project in an amount not to exceed $130,000 and allocating $130,000 from the solid waste/recycling fund, AB 939.
I'd like to turn this over to our city manager, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council, and citizens. We are here tonight to discuss a item to purchase downtown trash receptacles. It may seem like a simple thing, but it is very important to the aesthetics and fabric of our downtown. We last talked about this item in a study session on March 9th, and we intended to fund this project through the city's budget process, and you'll be receiving the proposed budget in June. And so you may be asking, why are we here before you tonight? Well, we're here before you tonight because in proceeding down the path to select the trash cans and respond to the council member feedback, our discussions with one of the select potential vendors has revealed that they intend to increase prices due to increasing steel prices nationally as of May 31st, 2021. And so should we want to move forward, there's a minor savings of approximately $73 per can. And so we wanted to bring this forward to see if we can have direction and an appropriation of funds, and then we would place that order expeditiously. So tonight's item is to provide input, is to provide the city council with information on 2 proposed trash receptacles and obtain feedback. You may recall at that March 9th meeting, we presented 9 options. Those were narrowed down to 3. 1 high capacity trash receptacle placed at specific locations, and then 2 options for the standard single trash receptacles. The images that you have on the screen, the one above on the right-hand side is of our current trash receptacles, and the one below is actually a test that was installed a few years ago outside of Starbucks. And I think we talked before that with respect to durability and appeal, it did not hold up, and it's great that we have tossed out that option. Agenda, a little bit of background, trash receptacle criteria. We'll talk about the options. We'll provide a recommendation as well as an alternative, and take questions. And again, with the goal, if we can, to have final direction here tonight on purchasing trash cans for downtown and potentially other locations in the city. So the council and the community may remember that the city completed a San Mateo Avenue conceptual streetscape and adopted that plan on October 22nd, 2019. And that plan really called for a lot. It called for a design palette to reactivate and revitalize the pedestrian fabric of downtown. And it also had certain standards for what street furniture should look like. But in reality, that was still a 10,000 foot plan, and bringing it down to the 1 foot level requires additional study as well as implementation of specific projects. And the project we're talking about here tonight is just one component of moving forward with improving the trash receptacles downtown. It's also worth mentioning that on March 9th, we talked about newspaper racks. Staff has not lost that. We are continuing to analyze that project and work with the newspaper companies, and we'll bring forward a recommended direction for council at a later time with regard to newspaper racks. So next are the images from the Streetscape Plan. Again, 10,000 feet, highly conceptual, and what you see is a lot of steel. There was a aesthetic decision to move away from steel and go to more warmer tones, as well as products that did not lend themselves to graffiti. And so what you will see in the recommended palette for trash receptacles is in alignment with moving away from steel and going to more warmer tones. So there are a few criteria that staff use, and we've talked about these before, so I will touch on them at a very, very high level. So a minimum capacity for the standard trash receptacles of 32 gallons, as requested through our conversations with Recology. All the receptacles should have a lid or cover to withstand weather conditions, ease of maintenance, and we have discussed all of the potential options with Recology to ensure that they are serviceable without undue challenges. The material of the receptacle should be graffiti, rust, fire, and stain resistant. And there are currently 37 receptacles downtown on San Mateo Avenue. You know, I neglected to mention that there is staff in the Public Works Department that is available to answer detailed questions. The last time this presentation was given to you, it was by our Public Works Director, who separated from the city to take another position, and so I'm pinch hitting tonight. So, receptacle options. So, at our last study session, the City Council really chose the high capacity big belly receptacles, both a recycling and a trash, at specific locations. We talked about a few, and we'll note those areas are noted in the staff report. We note 3 areas in the staff report: Starbucks, Roma's, and Citibank. And we're looking at identifying 3 other locations and talking to Recology about which cans have the most trash and doing a survey of downtown. But option A has replacing trash cans with up to 6 locations for the big bellies. And then the difference between option A and option B is the trash receptacle. On March 9th, the City Council tentatively took those 8 options for trash cans and narrowed down to 2. One is an embossed steel trash can, as shown in option B, and the other is option A, which is the steel do more trash can. And the feedback we heard from the City Council on March 9th was it is a aesthetically pleasing can, but concerns about durability. And so we'll talk about that in just one short moment. So as a reminder, the big belly kiosks, those are double station kiosks with both recycling and trash. There's a standard capacity of 50 gallons. We are recommending the higher capacity that has 150 gallons, and it is solar and compactable. And as we know, there are locations on San Bruno Avenue on San Mateo Avenue, where the trash does overflow, and having these larger capacity cans is something we've talked about. While cost should not be the only factor, it's worth noting that the standard capacity is 4,500 per kiosk, and the higher capacity is 9,300 per kiosk. It's worth noting that we are continuing to evaluate a 5-year service options for each of these 6 receptacles. It's roughly $200 a month, so that's $1,200 a month, or $14,400 per year for the 6 high capacity. The city can cover this cost through our existing revenue from the 1% AB 939 fee without any additional funds needed from allocations needed from the City Council or ratepayers. So option A, the 32-gallon do more trash can. This is the option that staff is recommending due to the aesthetics, and this is also the can that is at Earl Glenview Park. It has a waist hood. It's 32 gallons. Heavy steel at 194 pounds. Cost is roughly $1,500 each. With regard to durability of the wood, staff has communicated with the vendor, and they are able to offer a slight customization on this product and replace the wood with a recycled plastic. And it's a plastic wood that is a heavy dense resin that is more durable and easier to maintain. And so in the image above has the trash can, and they didn't have an image on their website, but we did want to provide a cutout of the recommended color, which I believe is an antique mahogany with a textured charcoal can. The next option, which admittedly is a lower cost option, probably beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it is a 38-gallon can. It's lighter, so 62 pounds, and that unit costs $620. It is slightly more capacity. It is slightly more larger in its footprint than the other can, but it is an option, and it is an option that the City Council centered on as well. So at a high level, staff recommends option A, given its alignment to the aesthetics in the downtown streetscape plan. The estimated budget for equipment only is $105,000, and that's again for six locations for the Big Belly and 33 locations for the trash receptacle. It's worth noting that there are 31 locations currently on downtown, but we included an additional 2 because we know in the fine analysis there may be a desire to add an additional trash can or 2 somewhere. So an alternative is while there are a total of 39 locations downtown, there are an additional 7 trash receptacles along El Camino and Cherry Avenue that are serviced by Recology. And so if we include those, it's a total of 46 stations at roughly $115,000. And the city is recommending that should the council want to move forward, you approve an allocation of $130,000, which would include the ancillary costs of affixing them downtown and trash removal of the existing cans, with funding paid for from the city's AB 939 fee, which is a 1% charge on solid waste collection and small state grants. There's approximately $400,000 in that fund, and annually we receive about $50,000 to $60,000 in that 1% fee. Over the life of that fund, it has been as low as $20,000. But given the current revenue generation from that fund and the accumulation, we are able to cover the cost of this trash can installation, as well as pay that annual ongoing service cost for the Big Belly solar high capacity trash receptacles. So that concludes the presentation. We are, of course, here for questions. If I can't answer them, hopefully we have staff within the Public Works Department that can. And again, thank you for these continued conversations, and we're looking forward to moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager, for the report. And if any members of the community would like to speak on this item, if you could raise your virtual hand, and we'll call on you very shortly. And then the only thing, I know you gave us the numbers of cans. Did we assess whether we need to replace each can, i.e. does it need to be 37, can it be 35, based on whatever Recology had felt is works or doesn't?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. The recommendation is to replace all of the cans for a consistent aesthetic look downtown. In addition, the cans are in various states of disrepair, some of which you could even call dilapidation. We have not gone through a analysis of what cans are in a condition where they have a useful life. I think aesthetically, there has been, I believe, a desire to replace them, and that's the direction we've been going down. But again, we're happy to replace some and keep others.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk, why don't we please bring in the members of the public who wish to speak on this item?
Yes, first is Julia.
Hello.
Hi, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As a San Bruno resident, former member of the Beautification Commission, and someone who has done cleanups on San Mateo Avenue, I am excited for the addition of new receptacles in the area, but would like the council and staff to consider the following, probably in the future. One is adding receptacles next to every or more trash receptacles to encourage recycling, even in non-high traffic areas. Much of the litter I remember picking up was recyclables. A lot of it was glass. Just adding back the same receptacles doesn't necessarily mean less litter if we aren't educating the downtown community. I did like the note from the city manager about serving existing receptacles and the level of trash in those receptacles. Second, consider matching the colors of the receptacles, especially for the big bellies, to be blue for recycling and black for landfill. I realize that may not match the aesthetics, but it helps with the education and in getting the right materials and the right receptacles. And if the city cannot do any of the above, please add signage in English and Spanish indicating landfill and recycling, and also consider images of accepted items for each receptacle and prohibited items, especially on the big bellies. This helps in education and reducing contamination in each of the receptacles, even if it's minimal in nature. I know Millbrae downtown has receptacles with signage on it that are big bellies. There's no point in adding recycling if it is constantly contaminated, and to further education from home with our 3 carts and bins, and now to public spaces such as downtown. Especially since I live near a park with no signage on the receptacle, so it's really confusing. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Stephen Seymour.
Hello, Melissa.
Hello, whenever you're ready.
All right, hello, City Council members. First of all, I'd just like to thank you all for the place that we are at today. This discussion is a healthy one, and I really appreciate the previous speaker and what she added in terms of recycling and messaging. I would like you to think about some of these existing ones that are on the avenue today. Maybe they could be refurbished. I've seen a lot of these type of containers that are done in mosaic and really make quite interesting art pieces, and also are usable. I realize that when we're talking about recycling, maybe they don't offer that that ability, but in terms of looking at the cost, maybe some of them could be kept and turned into interesting art pieces in certain areas on the avenue, and you could reduce the number of the new ones that you're buying. That aside, I really appreciate the fact that you're looking at this and that we're going to get rid of what has been an eyesore on that street for an awful long time. But I want you to think about possibly keeping some and maybe turning them into art pieces that would bring and attract visitors to the avenue. Those visitors would stay and shop and eat in our restaurants, and might really kind of set San Bruno aside. I'm not sure, I can't think of anywhere on the peninsula where I've seen the kind of mosaic that I'm talking about, but certainly if you Google, you'll find all sorts of trash receptacles that are the exact ones that we have on the avenue that have been refurbished and then turned into interesting art pieces. Those are my comments. Thank you very much for carrying this conversation and for doing something about the despicable trash containers that have been on that avenue for a long time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Jeffrey Tong. Jeffrey, I'm trying to get you unmuted. There you are. Hi, whenever you're ready.
City Council members, would like to recommend the cheaper, higher capacity alternative, but the most important thing is easiest to maintain. My guesstimate is everything is going to have graffiti or whatever, people vandalizing it. So whatever's easiest to maintain, that's the #1 priority. Looking at BART, they chose a lot of things on their trains to make it more aesthetic, but when you have more comfortable things, easiest to maintain is the most important thing. With regards to high capacity, I would believe that BART is one of the most important places to put the high capacity trash cans. Lastly, I believe that a high fine is important to discourage people from littering and, most importantly, dumping things. Particularly with dumping, the fine needs to be $10,000 because there's a lot of people who are doing this seemingly on a professional level, collecting money and just dumping things on the street. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. And I think I'm not seeing any more hands from the public. So why don't we start with first Councilmember Mason, then we're going to go to Councilmember Hamilton. And then we're going to go to Vice Mayor Medina, then we're going to go to Councilmember Salazar.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm trying to put my hand down. Just a couple quick follow-up and new questions, but at the last meeting when this was presented, I had asked about the maintenance of the cans, and Burlingame does a regular maintenance of power washing the actual cans to make sure that the cans stay in good condition, they're clean. And we had been told there was going to be that they'd look into it, staff would look into it, and then come back to us. I'm not sure with these new cans, can we make, if you don't have the answer now, can we make sure that they get on a maintenance schedule handled by our San Bruno team?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I will probably follow up on that because I do think it's really important. I think that's part of the demise of our existing garbage cans is that there just doesn't appear to be any regular maintenance of them. The other question I had was, last time we had been presented the cans with the magazine racks. Are the magazine racks coming back to us as a different item?
Yes, the magazine racks will follow a different path. We are fast forwarding this item due to the price increase on steel.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I think he said in a, I think, clearer way than I would have written it, but Mr. Tong talked about maintenance of the cans. The idea around the graffiti, around just the cleanliness of the cans on a day-to-day basis, is that something that, is there a cost associated to one can that's not associated to the other can?
Sure. I think there are multiple parts to the answer to that question. I think it goes back to your initial question about having a maintenance schedule or program for the trash cans. Absolutely, the city can put together a plan to power wash the cans. Candidly, what may be required is a level of effort that we cannot accomplish right now, given our current staffing and workload demands, to power wash on a more regular basis. And so that may have to come back with a reconfiguration of staff assignments and or a different plan for maintaining not just trash cans, but the app. So just candidly about that, that is something that we need to do more study and more investigation about because it's trash cans and others. With regard to the best can for maintenance, and why don't I talk sort of about the trash receptacles, the embossed version versus the newborn version. Both of them can be power washed. Both of them do not have the type of slaps that the pilot that we have in front of Starbucks have, and so they lend themselves to being cleaned easily with power washing. The do more version, because the vast majority of the surface is the recycled plastic. The comment from staff is that we believe that it will lend itself to a better long-term maintenance because constantly power washing steel erodes away the paint surface, and then you get to the metal and then rusting. And so we do believe that the Demore version will provide a better long-term, a better lifespan and aesthetics over the long term with sort of regular and reoccurring power washing, which I believe is envisioned.
Okay, and then what about if there's any, I guess once we get the cans that if they end up not holding up the way that they're being advertised to hold up, are there any safety warranties or anything that we're making sure we get for the cost that we're paying to be able to return them or exchange them?
Yeah. So there are standard warranties. I cannot quote them right now, and I won't try, but absolutely there are standard warranties with the products, and we will certainly monitor them, and should there be a need to activate one of the warranties, do that within enough time to have them replaced.
Okay, and then just around the big bellies, the other areas that I think that may warrant them is, I feel like and it could just be me, but in front of Los Primos, there's always garbage overflowing, to the point where it appears that people actually bring their garbage and just leave it next to the garbage can. But I feel like that's a really high garbage area. And then in front of Signore's Pizza, just to, I don't really know how much is going to be direction at this point, since you're already going to be ordering them. But I do think those are two areas that are constantly overflowing. There's constantly, and as a result, you get garbage all over that whole area. So if there can be anything done to add some larger garbage cans, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for getting this back to us.
Let's go to Councilmember Hamilton, please.
Thank you. So most of what I was going to cover was covered in the conversation with Councilmember Mason. So I'll keep it quick. I want to thank staff for answering my pre-questions about the maintenance, especially of option A. When we first looked at this and the Dumar option that had the wood, I was very concerned about the wood not being able to stand up, and that's why I was leaning toward the other one, which I didn't like as nearly as much aesthetically, but was worried that that the wood wouldn't stand up. So this resin option really seems like a much better option, and that can be maintained and cleaned. And I appreciate the very detailed information that was sent in response to my question about how it could be cleaned. So much information that I'm wondering if you're asking me to clean it, because I have enough information to do it myself now. So thank you for that. So I am supportive of option A, and very appreciative to staff for bringing this back to us so quickly. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, staff, for the research. Just wanted to follow up on a couple items. For the big belly, does that cost include the foot pedal option? And for the model that in option A, did staff obtain any feedback from any other city that is using that model, to hear from the customer how well it holds up instead of relying on the vendor? And my last question is, for the graffiti proof for the big bellies, can that wrap be customized to where it could be some totally different message of whatever we want, similar to the utility boxes that are around town that got painted, that was overseen by the Culture and Arts Commission?
Sure. So 2 questions. Can the wrap be customized? Absolutely. On the big bellies, it is a wrap, and it can be customized. With regard to the foot pedal option, the option that we are showing both has the hands and the foot pedal, and so that is included. And the third question, which is were we able to contact other cities that had the specific trash can? The answer is no, but we were able to contact ourselves because that trash can is at the Road Glenview Park. And so staff did take a look at the one at Road Glenview Park and is happy with both the quality and how it's holding up.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I have one last thing from Jeffrey Tong's question. I've heard this many times. Hey, why don't you just increase the fines? But I think our city attorney will be able to answer it much better than I. That there's a limit to what you can fine somebody. So I was wondering if he can give an answer for Jeffrey Tong about the higher fine option.
And our city attorney, yes, and I was just pulling up his email, which I could read, but I bet you it'll come much better from him than me reading the email. So, city attorney.
Thank you. Well, if you read it, I'll be sure not to forget anything. So the basic principle is that the fines that are set forth in the San Bruno Municipal Code are those fines that are the maximum fines allowed by state law. And some residents may wonder why other cities are able to consider charging fines of $10,000 for certain violations. And one answer to that question is that those cities are allowed, or at least authorized, to issue fines up to that amount if otherwise adopted by the city council pursuant to a charter. However, I do want to caution everyone that the fines issued by cities for any violation of any municipal code are always subject to constitutional scrutiny under the Excessive Fines and Penalties Clause of the United States Constitution. And what's important to know about that is that one person who believes they have been charged an excessive fine can sue in federal court, sue the city, and recover their attorney's fees, not just for that particular case, but may also be able to recover those fines that were paid by other members similarly situated to that person in, for example, a class action. So there is a substantial legal risk associated with implementing or adopting large fines for really any sort of violation where the fine may be seen as not proportional to the violation. And just to get one quick example of that, there's a case pending right now in a federal court out of Los Angeles County in which somebody was fined, I think, $53 for a parking ticket. And under Los Angeles's charter, the fine is doubled if you don't pay it on time. And that person is suing on behalf of himself and others for the doubling of that fine as an excessive fine. So that lawsuit is, of course, anyone can sue anyone for anything, but it is likely that those kinds of lawsuits would cost any city literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend, even if they ultimately prevail, and all for a $50 fine. So we really do have to be careful with these things. We do understand the desire of both city and the public to ensure that, for example, dumping does not occur or is deterred, but generally increasing the fine to a very large amount is likely not going to gain compliance unless you can catch the violators.
Well said. Thank you.
And then since on that, there was a comment about BART, but to my knowledge, and city manager will know, that is that BART's property, they maintain those, or am I incorrect? So therefore we would be spending taxpayers' dollars from San Bruno to help BART, which that is their responsibility.
That is true. The trash cans in front of the BART station are maintained by BART. I do believe there are some on the outside of the rear mall entrance, and those are maintained by the mall as well.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, were you done with your questions?
Actually, I'm not. I wanted to express my support to the concept of refurbishing the garbage cans. If not for perhaps a separate project, maybe they could be reused for the schools or some other public agency that would appreciate a mosaic on a garbage can. currently, I think we should move forward with what we have now. I do appreciate the interest to save $2,400 in bringing this forward. So thank you, City Manager, for that. As for the power washing, this seems to kind of be a refound source of funds with this AB. I lost the number here, but that we could potentially include that in next year's budget. So those are my final comments. I am supportive of option A.
Councilmember Salazar.
Thank you. So I think, like all of my colleagues, I'm glad to see this moving forward. We definitely want to do something to address the appearance of our downtown. And as someone who's participated in Clean Sweep and spent time repairing those other trash cans, I can attest that they do suffer from a great deal of neglect and poor maintenance. Not only is the surface hard to clean because of the pebbled finish on it, but a lot of the metal portions of it that comprise the door and the opening and everything are so severely rusted that it's even with the coat of paint, it's hard to make them viable again. So it will be nice to have something down there. As I expressed last time, I still have a little bit of concern about the $10,000 garbage cans. To me, it still seems excessive, and I'm not thoroughly convinced that they will address the concerns around the garbage cans filling. And maybe I'm not looking at this or I'm misreading the specs on these, but from what I understand, we're getting 36-gallon, roughly normal garbage cans versus a 50-gallon high-capacity garbage can. And it seems like even just getting two regular garbage cans would give you more capacity than one of these super garbage cans. And the capacity in those comes from the fact that they have a built-in compactor, but looking at the guts of it on their website, it looks like it's a very small capacity container, and it just kind of gets mashed down. And so in the end, I don't know if we're really getting the bang for the buck and paying that much more per unit, where we could possibly on busy corners put two garbage cans or add garbage cans catty corner from each other in areas that need it more. So it seems to me like that would be more cost effective, especially if we're still going to be paying for the same amount of service to those garbage cans. And I know that the compactor models have the benefit where you service them less often because they can accumulate more. And so maybe you don't pick up every day, you pick up every other day. But we're not getting that benefit. We're still going to be paying for emptying all the garbage cans every day. And so there's no real benefit to it. So if staff wants to speak to that, that would be great. I saw in the staff report that they mentioned the solar variety of these. And then there was a picture of one that was the non-solar variety. And I believe that in the staff's presentation, there was a reference made to the solar one. So I wanted clarification on whether we would be getting the solar version of it or not. Because then if we're not, then that would require having to run power to that location, which is probably not currently there. And then also the availability of enough daylight in those locations to actually charge these things enough to keep doing their job. And also saw in the staff report that there was a discussion about lease versus buy on those. And I'm wondering if staff was recommending one way or the other. Is staff recommending a purchase? And if it is a purchase, then is there additional maintenance required in order to maintain the mechanical portion of that thing? And if not, it sounds like the option would be a better demand. And then finally, on the funds that we're pulling from to do this, I was curious as to, and I haven't seen this come up before. I think Vice Mayor Medina kind of alluded to this too. It's like, okay, we're not, we've been collecting this money for a long time, but we haven't really talked a lot about it. And so I'm wondering what other demands or constraints there are on those funds that we should know about or perhaps be concerned if we're going to be consuming those for this project. So. those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager,
Sure.
please.
At a high level, I'll address the questions with regard to Big Belly and the options that are recommended for purchase. So we are recommending the high capacity solar version, which has with compacting, 150 gallon capacity as opposed to the 32 gallon regular trash can. So it is significantly higher. And you're absolutely correct. The double stations do cost $9,300 per station. And they also, we are evaluating, but I do believe that we will build into the budget, including the $200 a month lease fee for the software, which includes the warranty as well as alert monitoring for when they're full and additional software upgrades. And so we will build those in and appropriate the AB 939 funds. And the city has not programmed the AB 93 funds. They are eligible for this use and eligible for solid waste related items. It is a fund that we have analyzed and looked to potentially utilizing funds for illegal dumping related activities. As the council knows, we are currently working with Recology and with the contract amendment that we are pursuing with them for supporting the city with illegal dumping. We want to see how that goes before appropriating additional funds from this fund to support illegal dumping. But you're absolutely right. It has been a source of funds, the 1% on solid waste that we have accumulated. While I have not been here the whole time those funds have been accumulating, I do know that cities accumulate those funds to be able to do things like this, because finding $100,000 to fund trash cans out of the general fund when you're sort of balancing between normal city services is challenging. And so accumulating funds like this that trickle in over years is a best practice. So you can replace all of your infrastructure, in this case, trash cans.
Councilmember Salazar, did you?
Just for clarification, so yes, we are getting the solar versions of it. It sounds like staff is recommending purchase versus lease, but there's also ongoing maintenance costs even if we purchase.
Yes.
Okay. And the software. And back to the funds. So there's nothing within the intent of that particular assembly bill that collects that fund that would require those funds to be used for either reduction or redirection or something else rather than just providing receptacles.
No, we did analyze that, and the city attorney, prior to this recommendation, did do an analysis, and using them for receptacles is an eligible use.
Okay, just wanted to verify that. And okay, all right, that was it. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Mason.
Thanks. I'm sorry, I meant to ask this earlier. I did agree with the speaker who mentioned that we should have multilingual signs. Would that be, do you need direction on that with this item?
I think that is certainly possible. We have not designed the custom wrap for the Big Bellies. With regard to the single cans, we were not envisioning having signage on those because those are single multi-use cans for both trash and recycling. So as we design the custom wrap and the language, certainly we can include multiple languages.
Okay, for the Big Bellies, you're saying. Okay, and then my other question was going to be if in the future we see that there's I guess increasing garbage in the regular size bins, I'm wondering if would it be possible and would it look funny to partner it later? So let's say in 2 years, there's more and more garbage. Could we get another one of the same garbage cans? Is it going to look this, is it going to have faded? And then they'd be side by side as a garbage and recycling bin.
So yes, there is generally the option to add an additional trash can. And I think what you're articulating is to add a recycling receptacle next to it. Typically, that is possible. I cannot guarantee at this point that in 3 or 5 years, when we make that decision, the vendor will be making the exact same trash can in the exact same color. But in general, that is possible.
So then, the last comment was going to be, I correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody's saying that we're expecting city staff to create art out of the existing garbage cans. But I do think that it's a good idea to, if there's space, I actually don't know how much space the city has, but to store some of those garbage cans in case that could become a project later. Knowing now how much garbage cans cost, I would definitely support that. I know that it would be a space issue though. So if there's space to store them, maybe somebody does take an interest later on in actually restoring them and placing them somewhere else in the city. That's it. Thank you.
Council Member Salazar.
Just, one last question. Since these smart garbage cans have the software running them and it's going to be generating data, are we going to be collecting metrics on our new garbage cans? And can we expect some reporting on that?
Great question. Cannot commit to the frequency of reporting, but absolutely, the software does come with data, and we will look into that and see how that appropriately fits in with providing performance metrics to the city on how much trash individuals are throwing away downtown.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Well, Councilmember Salazar, it looks like you got everybody's attention on that last question. I think what I have been asked, and I know that staff's taken a look, but it's like, people perceive for 4 to 5 blocks having that many garbage cans is, are they all needed or necessary because of the cost? I do appreciate that. I think one of our concerns was about the side material and whether it graffitied. So having that into something a little different, I think helped address that concern. So I appreciate that. And then I do believe that, again, the concern is on the recycling, because obviously if the wrong stuff goes in, it's contaminated. So then therefore, that's one of those issues that even in our own community, we're having to help educate each other, because that's happening, and that which increases the rates because of the way it operates now. So I think I think it's nice to go forward. I had some of the same concern on how many Big Belly versus where we're at, and also just as far as that number is just for me to be reassured. We've looked at that. We've worked with Recology, and we really believe that you need to replace each one.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm seeing no other hands up at this point. So, council, it is a resolution. Is there any action by council?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase units for the downtown trash receptacles project, utilizing option A as noted in the staff report.
Is there a okay. So is there a second first? And I'm going to go right to the city manager because he wanted some clarification, which is, thank you for asking.
Second.
Okay, there we go. Hamilton, Medina, and city manager, please.
Sure. I just wanted to clarify that is with the additional of 7 trash cans throughout the city. And so that brings the total number of single receptacles to approximately 40. That budget comes to $115,000. Again, that is only for equipment only. We're asking for an appropriation of $130,000 at this time, which is enough to cover the equipment. and that is sufficient for the larger amount of trash cans.
Just through the mayor, I'd like to amend my motion.
Please.
To clarify that this includes the 7 additional units not for San Mateo Avenue, and authorizing the amount not to exceed $130,000.
And with the seconder, is that good?
That's good.
Okay. Thumbs up.
Thank you.
Thank you for City Manager. Thank you for getting that clarification before we do the vote. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Mason, Councilmember Mason,
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar,
While I remain skeptical about the big bellies, I'll vote yes.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina,
Aye.
Mayor Rico Medina.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.